Go ahead.
Thank you. Where we left off, you were talking about the telephone call from Mr. Jackson.
Turn your microphone on, please.
Thank you. Where we left off, we were speaking of the telephone call with Mr. Jackson and the arrangements for the trip to Florida before that. Let me ask you a couple other questions.
Okay.
Had you been contacted prior to that phone call from Mr. Jackson in that early part of February by any member of the media or the press?
Yes.
All right. Had you personally been contacted?
What happened? This is how it happened. 2 reporters. They said they were 2 reporters. Who knows? Okay. They had gone to my mom's house. My mom only speaks Spanish. That's it. These 2 men, one of them was the speaker, kept telling my mom, Gavin, cancer, and speaking in English. And the only 2 things that stood out in my mom, even though she knows only Spanish, like certain words mean something to her. And so they said, Gavin, cancer, and that stood out. So my mom called me immediately, what's wrong with Gavin? And I go, no, nothing's wrong, Mom. They're at school. And she goes, well, there's 2 men here telling me about Gavin and cancer. And so she didn't know, so I thought maybe some medical.
Let me stop you for a second.
Sure.
This conversation was how long prior to the phone call from Mr. Jackson?
I don't understand.
The conversation with your mother about these 2 people who arrived.
Okay, they were still there while my mom was on the phone.
I know. But this conversation was how long prior to your conversation with Mr. Jackson? Was it the same day?
It was within hours that Evie contacted me next.
All right. Now, are these the only 2 members of the press who contacted your family?
Yes.
And anybody else from the media contact your family?
Oh, yeah, afterwards.
Afterwards?
Yes.
But prior to your trip to Miami?
Prior to my trip, yes, that's it.
Did you ever actually speak with these 2 people?
Well, my mom passed me the phone, and I spoke to him. And he says, we just happened to see your son in England. And I go, no, I just dropped off my son at school. And if he's in England, he's in big trouble, And he was very vague. And I said, you scared my mom. She only speaks Spanish, so please don't continue talking to her.
Did you have an interview with either of these 2 people?
No.
Objection.
No.
The witness had not completed her response. I don't think, Your Honor.
No.
You call it.
Why don't you just ask another question?
Thank you. Did you actually have a conversation with either of those 2 people over the telephone?
Yes, one of them.
All right. Did that person identify himself by name?
I think his name, he said. I'm a reporter from England. I just flew in and I have to fly out immediately.
All right. Did he tell you what his name was?
I think it was. I think it was Mr. Garner. I think that's what it was.
Garner or Gardner?
I think it was, yes.
Did he tell you what publication he was with?
No, he just said, I'm a reporter from England. I just flew in, and I have to fly back immediately.
Did he tell you that he wanted to have an interview with you?
No.
Did he discuss any particular issue with you?
He was very vague. What he wanted was for me to meet, to have a conversation with him, but because he was vague, I didn't want to talk to him.
Okay.
So I told him, you're scaring my mom. And that's not my house, that's my mom's house. I live in Los Angeles.
All right.
And that was it.
All right.
As best as I can recall.
This was a telephone conversation from which phone?
From my mom's.
You happened to be there at the time of the call?
No. I'm over here in Los Angeles. My mom called me because she was scared, because these 2 guys were saying Gavin, and a whole conversation. But the only thing that jumped out in my mom was Gavin, and cancer.
And then you called back from where?
There was no call back.
All right. They called you when you were at your mom's?
No.
Tell us.
I was in Los Angeles. My mom was courteous and polite, you know. Handed her the phone, because I wanted to know what the nature of their visit, why they were saying, Gavin, cancer.
They were there in person?
Yes, yes. At my mom's house.
All right. Now, during the course of this conversation, did you discuss Michael Jackson at all?
No.
Did they tell you they wanted to talk about Michael Jackson?
No.
Objection. Leading.
No. All they said was.
Overruled.
They had seen Gavin in England.
How long was this conversation you had with him?
Just minutes. With the information that I just told you, if you want to time it, it's about that long.
Was that the only conversation that you had with either one of them?
That's correct.
On this day, prior to going to?
That day, only day.
Never had any conversation.
Never.
Thereafter?
0. 00.
At some point in time, did your then boyfriend, Jay Jackson,
Yes.
tell you that he had had conversations with reporters?
Now I know, per this investigation. I know a lot of things now per this conversation.
Listen to the question, okay? On that day prior to your going to Florida, did Jay Jackson tell you that he had conversations with reporters?
No.
Did you have any conversation with Jay Jackson prior to going to Florida about any reporters at all?
No.
Were you aware? Did any other reporter try to contact you prior to going to Florida?
No.
In the course of this conversation with this person, Gardner or Garner, did he mention anything about a documentary?
No.
Did he mention to you anything about your child having been on television?
He had said, I have just seen Gavin in England.
All right. And you weren't certain what that meant?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you were speaking with Mr. Jackson on the telephone,
Uh-huh.
did you ask Mr. Jackson about whether or not your child had been on television?
No, I didn't ask him.
You didn't him ask that question?
No.
Did he offer any information about that?
No, not really. He was vague.
In the course of your conversation with Michael Jackson, did he mention anything about this documentary having?
He said only the Bashir.
Listen to the entirety of the question.
Okay.
Did he say anything to you about this documentary that had aired in England?
No.
Did he mention the name of it, Living with Michael Jackson?
No.
Did he mention Martin Bashir?
He didn't say, Martin Bashir. He said, Bashir.
All right. Did you ask him who that was or what that was about?
No. Until Miami. I found out more things.
All right. Now, you then flew to Miami, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And with whom did you fly to Miami?
With Chris and the kids and me.
Do you know, and Chris is Chris Tucker?
Yes.
Do you know how he became involved at this stage?
Evie contacted him.
Evie contacted him?
Yes, but I didn't know about this until I got to the sidewalk, which Gary Hearn had meet us, and he says, guys, there's a change of plans, and that was it.
Did he then take you to a private?
No, he took us to Chris's house, and we spent some time there in Chris's house because we were waiting for Davellin to come. That's when we flew on a private jet.
All right. And did you know that you were going to be taking a private jet?
Not until Gary told me.
And the private jet took you straight to where?
Miami.
And once in Miami, did they take you to a hotel?
Yes.
Which hotel did they take you to?
The Turnberry.
Can you describe that hotel for us?
It looks like a Las Vegas kind of hotel, except.
Is it fancy?
Yeah, without the slot machines.
Without the slot machines. All right. Now, did you meet up with Mr. Jackson when you got there?
No, we got right there until. You know that time before morning time where it's really, really dark? That's the time we arrived. So we went straight to, dropped off Chris in his room, and then we went to our room. And our room was right underneath his room. And Chris, they had set him up in a completely different building, away from me and the kids.
All right. And were you in a suite of some kind?
It was 2 rooms connected. You know, I don't know if you know the hotels where you lock it and then there's 2 separate rooms? Well, they had unlocked it.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. And you were there with the 3 children?
Yes.
Now, when did you see Michael Jackson after arriving?
In the daytime.
Had you talked with anybody during the course of the trip about this danger that Mr. Jackson had spoken to you about?
No.
When you got to the hotel, did you have a conversation finally with Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long had you been at the hotel before you met up with Mr. Jackson?
Hours. Because we had arrived during that time and it was already the day of.
Who else was present during the course of this conversation?
Okay, the conversation?
Yes.
Just me and the kids and him.
Did he talk with you about the issue of this danger to the children?
Yes.
What did he say?
He spoke to all 3 of my kids and me, and he spoke in a very normal voice, very male voice. This is where I became aware that all 3 of my children were in danger. Told me to trust him, believe him, he's a father figure, be like a father to all 3 of my kids. Basically telling us he's going to protect us, protect my kids. To do everything that Ronald and Dieter tell him, because this is what's going to fix the problem. He even had told me that he has read. He knows what to do in this situation, because he's read hundreds of books on psychology, and he knows what to do in these kind of things, of what kind of frame of mind that these people that were threatening my children are. He had cried. I just thought, what a nice guy,
Hold on 1 second. This conversation took about how long?
Oh, gosh. About 45 minutes.
Alright. Did you ask him specifically about the nature of the threats to your children?
No, I was just like a sponge, believing him, trusting him.
Did he tell you the nature of the threats to your children?
Because of the Bashir thing.
But did he tell you who these people were?
No.
At any point in time did he say to you that the police were or were not being contacted?
No.
Did he ask anything of you or your children while you were there in this meeting?
In this meeting, no.
Do you know why you were in Miami?
To do a press conference.
Did he talk with you about a press conference?
No.
During this meeting, he said something about Dieter and Ronald?
Yes.
Were Dieter and Ronald people who you knew prior to that day?
No.
Did you meet them that day?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, if I could approach the witness, please.
Yes.
I'm showing you 2 exhibits, if I can, number 17 and number 18, all right, in evidence. If you'll take a look at number 17, can you tell us who that is?
That's Dieter.
And do you know Dieter's last name?
I've come to find out per this investigation.
Just tell us.
Dieter Weisner.
All right. Number 18, do you know who this person is?
Ronald Konitzer.
And those were the Ronald and Dieter that?
Yeah, those Germans.
And, in fact, are they German?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because they told me, and plus they speak German.
Spoke among themselves in German?
Yes.
Did you meet them that day?
Yes.
Is there anything else that Mr. Jackson told you in the course of that meeting with him?
Oh, that he loves us. That he cares about us. That we're family. That we were in the back of the line. Now we're in the front of the line. And because he's going to take care of us, protect us from these killers. Let me see. What else? That he's not just a father figure to Gavin, to Star and to Davellin. Let me see. What else? And he's family to me and he's family to the kids. Let me see. What else?
Do you know if Mr. Jackson had ever had?
Objection. The witness has not completed her answer yet.
Oh, there's still more. When it pops up, I'll let you know.
Go ahead and ask your next question.
Do you know if Mr. Jackson had ever had such a similar conversation with your children?
With my kids?
Yes. Prior to that day.
Prior to the Bashir thing?
Yes, where he talked about being family.
Yeah. In the initial visit in August, in 2000, all his people, for example, Evie was the number one that was pointing out that, I want you to see Michael as like family, all. We see him and view him only as a father figure, so.
Do you know if Mr. Jackson has ever said something like that to your children prior to Miami?
Actually, in a conversation with Gavin over the phone, that's when Gavin had told me one of the conversations.
Alright. Did you then have conversations with either Dieter or Ronald?
Prior to this?
No. I think you had said that you never met them prior to that.
Yeah, that's right.
After your conversation with Mr. Jackson, and he gave you some direction with regards to Dieter and Ronald, what specifically was it that he told you to do with Dieter and Ronald?
To listen and do everything they say, because they're going to fix the problem.
Now, did you then have a conversation with either Dieter or Ronald?
Yes, I did.
Was it one or the other, or both?
Both.
Was it at the same time or separately?
This was the same time.
Alright. And do you remember where you were when that conversation took place?
In Miami.
Were you in the hotel?
Yes, in his room.
In Mr. Jackson's room?
Yes.
Was Mr. Jackson present?
Yes, he was. And he had sat me down, and he said, sit down right here, and those two sat next to me.
Okay.
And then Michael was there.
Who did the speaking?
Who did the speaking first?
Yes.
Because they were all speaking.
Well, alright, that's a valid point. Who is it who began the conversation?
Well, Michael.
And what did he say when all of you were together?
He said, this is Ronald and Dieter. Because he had already had that 45-minute initial meeting.
I understand.
And that's the point where he had taken off the jacket and handed, and physically placed it on Gavin.
Alright. Well, let me ask you about that for a second. This was in the hotel room?
Yes.
On the first day of your visit?
Yes.
And it was the date of the flight, actually, is that right?
Yeah, because we had arrived there right before.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Now, he was wearing a jacket during the course of this conversation?
Yes. Yes.
And he took the jacket off?
Yes.
And did what with it?
Yes.
What did he do with the jacket?
It was kind of like it was after he was done with the conversation. He took off his jacket, and then he put it on Gavin. He told me he wanted him to wear it and not to take it off.
Was Star there as well?
Yes.
Was Davellin there as well?
Yes.
And both Dieter and Ronald were there at that time?
No. In the initial meeting with him?
Yes.
Ron and Dieter were nowhere in sight of the hotel room.
But at the time he handed your son his jacket, were either of them there?
No.
Ronald or Dieter?
No.
Now, let's get to the conversation when Ronald and Dieter are there.
Yes.
Can you tell us what Ronald said during the course of that conversation?
Objection. Hearsay.
Statement in furtherance.
To the jury, all right. I'm allowing this particular testimony for purposes limited to possible conspirator statements. You may only consider it for those purposes in accordance with my earlier instructions.
I believe it was Ronald I had asked you about. Tell us what Ronald said during this conversation.
Well, in this conversation, all they wanted to know was basically of who I am, where I lived, my brothers, my mother. Just basically information from me and the kids. That's all.
Did you give them that information?
Yeah, I did.
At some point in time, and was that with Dieter as well, during that conversation?
Yeah, yes.
Did they give you any direction?
No, they were just, wanting information about me and my kids. And I had seen nothing incorrect about that, or wrong, because, we just had that powwow with Michael.
Did either one of them in this initial conversation talk to you about a danger that your children were experiencing?
In this one, no. No, they were just like absorbing all the information that they possibly could have.
They were getting information from you?
Yes. From me and my kids. About our past, our present.
Was Mr. Jackson present during the entirety?
Yes.
Please wait till the question's answered, in its entirety.
Okay.
Was Mr. Jackson there during the entirety of that conversation?
Yes.
Did he offer any other information during that conversation that you haven't told us about yet?
Best I can remember, no.
How long did you stay in Miami?
Okay. Arrived there at that night. Was there that day. That night they showed the Living with Michael Jackson thing, which I wasn't allowed to watch, none of the children, and then the next day we left.
Alright, so you were there 2 nights?
Yeah.
And then the next day you flew back?
Yes.
Let's go back to that first day. Now, you've described that first conversation that took place with your kids, Mr. Jackson, Dieter and Ronald.
Uh-huh.
Did you have any subsequent conversations, any other conversations that day with either Ronald?
No.
Or Dieter?
They were busy at work, I know now.
But did you have a conversation with either one of them that day?
No. After that, after they absorbed all that information, no.
Alright. Now, the next day, did you have any conversation with either Michael Jackson or Dieter or Ronald?
Just almost the whole day. That's when we had stayed in Michael's room.
You were there in Michael's room that entire time?
Yeah.
Alright. Did Mr. Jackson talk with you during the course? Was Mr. Jackson there during that day?
Yes.
So he was in the room with you and your 3 children?
Yeah.
For a good part of the day?
Well, the whole entire time. Michael was there with the kids.
Alright. Did you ever leave the hotel?
No, I never left the hotel.
Had you ever been to Miami before?
Never been there.
Did you want to go see the city at all?
No.
Did you express a desire to leave the hotel?
Objection. Leading.
No. I just wanted to focus there.
Just a moment. Just wait till I rule after there's an objection.
Okay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Did you at any time leave the hotel during the 2 nights that you were there?
No.
Did you ever leave your room during that time?
Yes, I did. When I was in Michael's room, and then that's the best I can remember.
Did you ever go out to eat?
Well, the morning of, Chris was eating with the kids. They were having breakfast. By the time I had gotten there, they were already done. So all I had was, I think, please don't quote me on this. I know a lemonade and I think some cheese that they had, like samples.
Did you leave your room to go to a restaurant at all?
No, except for that. When I had arrived, Chris and the kids were already leaving.
Did you leave your room or Michael's room, Michael Jackson's room, for any reason during that time that you were there?
No, outside what I just told you, as best as I can remember.
Did you at any time go to a spa?
Not me.
Did other members of your family?
Yes.
Objection. Leading.
With Chris.
Just a moment. Overruled. You need to slow down when I'm ruling.
Okay.
Which members of your family went to a spa?
And I think that's what it was, okay?
Okay.
Because Chris wanted to go get a massage, so he took Davellin and Gavin and Star with him.
Alright. And did they have some type of service at the spa as well?
Yes.
Why didn't you go?
I was concerned. When are we going to, take care of my kids from being killed?
Did they talk to you about this press conference on the second day?
No, they didn't.
Neither one of them mentioned that to you?
No.
Did they talk about anything that they wanted to do on this second day?
No. No press conference.
Did you have any conversation with either Dieter or Ronald on this second day about anything?
Yeah, the 2 papers. One that Ronald wanted me to sign that had nothing written on there, and then when I asked him, what is it? No. Got to hurry up. We're running out of time, and, you want your kids to be killed. And so I signed it. And then the next time was Dieter. Dieter had said that what Ronald did didn't work. And he had a pre-something, a paragraph that was pre-written.
Alright.
And then he, in my writing, asked me to write some things, and then he had me sign underneath that.
Counsel? I showed you this earlier. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm going to show you an exhibit numbered 1, excuse me, numbered 807 for identification, not yet in evidence. Would you take a look at that document, please?
Uh-huh.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes. Not just my signature.
All right. Is your signature actually on that document?
Yes. It's actually in 2 different places.
Do you have a recollection of signing that document?
Not with this on here, and not with this on here.
All right.
And definitely I didn't sign my name twice on the same piece of paper. And there was no line right here.
All right. Well, let me ask you this question. Is any of that your handwriting? Any of it?
Just my signature and my printed name.
So the printed name, the hand-printed name, is your handprinting?
Yes, sir.
And the signature that's above that is your signature?
Yes, it is.
There's a second signature. Is that yours as well?
Yes.
Now, do you have a recollection at all of signing a document twice?
No. 2 different situation. 2 different things. 2 different papers.
All right. Your Honor, I'm going to move this exhibit into evidence at this time.
No objection.
All right. It's admitted.
And may I publish this?
You may.
I'd like to read. The very top part appears to be typed in. Would that be correct?
Yes.
All right. Let me read this to you out loud. Oh, you can make it larger? Perfect. I confirm that Theodore Goddard is authorized by me to file this complaint on behalf of my son, Gavin Arvizo. The date is Miami, February 7, 2003. Do you believe that you were in Miami on February 7?
I think so.
All right. Do you know who Theodore Goddard is?
No.
Were you ever told who Theodore Goddard is?
No.
Have you ever seen a document that had this sentence pre-printed on it?
No, not when I was in Miami. Now, per you guys' investigation.
Stop right there. That's the signature that's directly underneath it?
Yes.
Put it down a little bit so we can get the top. No, the other way. Yes. Just put it down. We have it now with the signature that's below it. And you're telling us that handwriting is yours.
Yes.
And the signature is yours?
Yes.
Do you remember a line being there?
No, I don't.
You didn't draw a line in there?
No, I didn't.
And you have no recollection of a line being there at the time you signed it?
I have no recollection of a line being there.
All right, let's move down. Okay. Mrs. Arvizo also learned that Davellin and Star have been on TV without her consent. Please act accordingly. And then there's a signature. Did you sign that?
I didn't sign that, but that is my signature.
All right. The paragraph that begins with, Mrs. Arvizo also learned. Is that your handwriting?
No, that's my handwriting. That's my printing up there.
All right. And
There's a difference.
Okay. And that particular paragraph, have you ever seen that paragraph before?
Never.
Now, do you have a recollection of signing any document twice?
On the same piece of paper? No.
Did anybody ever talk to you about a lawsuit while you were in Florida?
No.
Did anybody ever mention an attorney in England?
No.
Did anybody talk to you about your being represented or your son being represented?
No.
While you were there on this first day of conversations that you had with Dieter or with Ronald or with Mr. Jackson, did anybody talk to you about the presentation of Living with Michael Jackson?
No.
Did you at any time learn what that was?
Afterwards.
All right. Now, you had mentioned earlier that there was going to be a showing of
Yes.
Living with Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Do you remember when that was presented in the United States, on what day?
No. When I was there with him all day.
Yes.
That night.
It was that night?
Yes.
Of the first full day that you were in Miami?
Yes.
All right. Did you want to go watch that?
Yeah, I wanted to go see what has caused my kids to, all of a sudden there's death threats on them.
Now, you said, kids.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Hold on. Earlier, when you were in Los Angeles, you had mentioned that the threat was directed toward Gavin.
Yes.
Did that change?
Yes.
All right. What changed? Who told you that it had changed?
Michael.
What did he say?
That now it was all 3 of my kids.
All right. Mr. Jackson told you all 3 of your children were in danger?
Yes.
All right. Now.
And that's where that whole 45-minute speech.
When did you learn that there was going to be this presentation of a documentary titled, Living with Michael Jackson?
After Ronald and Dieter extracted all this information from me, then afterwards.
Did you know what that was? Did somebody explain to you what that was?
No.
Did somebody explain to you that your children were in it?
They had mentioned that my children were in it.
Did anybody tell you the manner in which they were depicted in that?
No.
Did anybody say anything about this documentary in terms of whether it was complimentary or not complimentary?
No. 0.
With whom had you talked about living with Michael Jackson?
At this point, the initial meeting. Then the Ronald and Dieter with Michael. Afterwards, let me see, they kept pulling Gavin into Ronald, Dieter and Gavin. Sick. Kept pulling Gavin into a room by himself. I was thinking they're talking about the press conference. Then Michael kept pulling Gavin into a room all by himself over and over. So it was in the middle of the pulling Gavin into the bedroom.
Okay. All right. Now, at some point you knew this was going to be on TV, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Who was it who told you it was going to be on TV?
Actually, I had overheard Michael with Ronald and Dieter talking. I overheard it.
All right. But when did you first learn that your children were involved in this documentary?
When I overheard it.
All right. So they had mentioned that?
Yes.
All right. Now, did you make an effort to go view it?
Yes, I did.
Did you know what time it was going to be on?
Yes, because I overheard it.
Did you, in fact, view it?
No, I didn't.
And why not?
Because when I ran down, Davellin had called me to the room and told me that Michael was angry, to come now, so I went back up.
All right.
And then Michael had talked to me and told me he didn't want me to see it.
But he told you that?
Yes.
Did he say why?
No.
Did you ask him why?
No, I just, I'm thinking, they're going to take care of my kids from these killers. I better.
Were you concerned at all about the content of that documentary?
It's until afterwards, I found out.
I'm talking about now in Miami.
In Miami? No, I was clueless.
Did you make any questions or any inquiries as to how your children were depicted in that video?
Afterwards, yes.
But in Miami?
In Miami, no.
You didn't ask either of the Germans?
No.
And you didn't ask Mr. Jackson?
No.
And you didn't watch it?
No, I didn't.
To this day, have you seen this documentary in its entirety?
Only the clips that the media elects to put on there, little clips.
But you have not.
But this is now.
But you have not watched it in its entirety?
No, I don't want to watch it. Now I don't want to watch it.
From the beginning to the end, you have not seen it?
No.
Did you have any other conversations on this full day that you spent the day in Michael Jackson's hotel room with Mr. Jackson, that you haven't told us about already?
With Michael?
Yes.
No, just that, the lovey-dovey 45-minute meeting.
All right. Did you have any other conversations with Dieter or with Ronald?
No. After the lovey-dovey meeting, then the Ronald and Dieter meeting with him, and, no, afterwards, no. Well, this is the best as I can remember. Oh, yeah, when I came back up from that when I went down there trying to see the Bashir thing, so, yeah, I did.
That conversation you've already told us about with Mr. Jackson, all right. Now, the next day, did you have any conversations with Mr. Jackson?
No.
All right. Did you head back to California?
No. Yeah, California, but not my home.
Okay. Where did you think that you were going to be going when you returned?
Well, I figured I'm going back to my home.
Did you ever have a press conference while you were there?
In Miami?
Yes.
No.
Did they ever explain to you why you didn't?
No.
Did either Ronald or Dieter talk about an alternative to a press conference?
No.
Did Mr. Jackson speak to you about an alternative to a press conference?
No.
Did you make any inquiries of anybody as to why you weren't having one?
No. When I did start to ask questions now, that's when a lot of craziness started happening.
Alright. Well, specifically with regards to Ronald or Dieter, did you make any inquiries of them?
Yes, I did. And they basically would shut me down every time, because they're the ones taking care of everything.
What do you mean by shut you down?
When I'd ask, like why didn't we do the press conference, and it was like, arg, you stupid woman. And it escalated.
Alright.
Go ahead.
And their behavior?
Escalated.
Escalated?
Yes.
Escalated in what way?
Well, do you want me to go all the way to the end?
Just tell me what they were saying to you. What did they say to you?
That they know best. They're the damage control team. And you wouldn't want to hear the way they said it.
Tell us what they said. Tell us what they said to you.
Well, Ronald telling me that he could have me erased if I make him angry. Just different things like that.
Alright. Were you frightened by the things they were telling you?
Yes. They terrified me.
Did you go back to Mr. Jackson and tell him?
When we initially got there to Miami, I talked to him, and his response was, do everything Ronald and Dieter tell you.
But during?
And that was it.
During this period of time that you were at the Turnberry Hotel in Miami. Hold on. You have to wait till the question's asked. During this period of time that you were in Miami, and during this period of time that you were having conversations with Ronald and Dieter and they were threatening you and saying things that were scary to you.
Not until we got at Neverland they did that.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Did these conversations take place in Miami?
No. In Miami they were just, extracting all the information possible. Scaring me, the scare was from other people, and acquiring those 2 signatures.
Okay, so neither one of them had threatened you personally?
No, not in Miami.
And you have mentioned that one of them called you a stupid woman.
Yes.
While you were there. Who was there?
Actually, both of them, but Ronald did first.
The other one did as well?
Yes.
That was still in Miami?
No, this is in Neverland.
Alright, it's back at Neverland.
Miami, they're just like, we're here to help you, protect the kids.
Did you fly back with everybody else?
At first it wasn't going to be like that.
Did somebody talk to you about your flying separately?
Yes.
Who was that?
Big Mike, or his head security of traveling.
Do you know his real name?
I don't know his real name.
Is that the name he goes by?
That's what they were calling him, Big Mike, and he said, I'm Big Mike.
Is he big?
Yeah, he is big.
Okay. Is he the one who told you you were flying separately?
Yes.
How did you understand your children would be flying?
Okay, he had called me and talked to my room and told me that Michael didn't want me flying back with my kids. That he wanted only my kids, and that I was going to have to take the next day flight out with their security. And I was like, no. And then he's saying, yes. And then I started crying on the phone, and because I'm, these are my kids, what's going on? I expressed to him, I said, remember how you wanted. Did I express to him? I did, to Mike, Big Mike.
Now,
my concerns.
Did he then tell you you would be flying with everybody else, or did somebody else tell you?
No, Big Mike said, after I started crying on the phone, and he says, I'm going to talk to the boss, and I'll see what I can do.
Did somebody then call you back?
And then Big Mike called me back and said then I could fly with the kids back to with Michael and just to stay quiet.
Did you, in fact, fly with them back?
Yes, I did.
Do you know how long that flight was?
No, it was just hours. I don't know.
Would you put another exhibit tag on this, please? Do you remember who any of the other people were who were on that plane?
Yes, I do.
Tell us who they were.
Okay, Baby Rubba, Marie Nicole, all three of his children, Patty and Grace, a doctor that they called. I now know per. There's a lot of things now I know per this investigation, but back then I didn't know. I just knew him as Dr. Farsha. And my kids, Michael, me, one flight attendant. And that's the best I can remember.
Alright, Baby Rubba is who?
I've come to find out now that his name is Aldo, but back then he was only known as Baby Rubba.
Is he related to Frank?
Yes.
Is Frank somebody you met prior to this time?
Prior to.
Did you know who Frank was at this time of the flight going back?
I had initially met him in August of 2000. Okay, then on this, in the Miami trip, he didn't even talk to me. Not once.
Alright, but, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
You met him in August of 2000. That was your first trip to Neverland?
Yes.
And he was there at that time?
Yes.
He was introduced to you as Frank?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you meet him in Miami? Was Frank there?
Yes, but he didn't talk to me at all in Miami. Zero conversation.
But you saw him there?
Yes, I did.
And was he introduced to you as the brother of Aldo and Marie Nicole?
No, he wasn't. It's the children that told me that that was his brother.
Prior to your going back, I assume all three of your kids are on this flight.
Yes.
And I assume all three of your kids are with you in the hotel.
Yes.
In Miami.
Yes.
Did Davellin go to New York?
Davellin?
Yeah.
No.
Was she on a shopping spree in New York with Marie Nicole?
Never.
You've never heard about this, have you?
No. There's a lot of things I haven't heard, and they just pop up.
Was Davellin a friend of Marie Nicole prior to Florida?
No.
Had never met prior to Florida?
Never.
Where did you think?
And in Miami, Baby Rubba and Marie Nicole were very, away from my kids. It's until they went to Neverland that they were all,
Together?
Together, yes.
Alright. Now, where did you think this plane was going to go?
Well, I just thought that maybe it was going to land in Los Angeles, and then, and that's it.
Did they tell you it wasn't going to Los Angeles?
No, they didn't tell me.
How long did you think you were going to be in Miami when you flew to Miami?
Well, just enough to do the press conference. My kids are in school, and come back. That's it.
Did you expect to be back after the press conference?
Yes. Take care of the problem, that's it.
Excuse me just one moment. Do you know what day of the week it was that you actually flew to Miami?
No, but it was a school day.
It was a school day?
Because Davellin, they had to wait till Davellin got out of school. And I had the boys,
And the next day that you were in Miami, was that a school day as well?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not sure.
Had any arrangements been made to accommodate their absence from school?
No.
Did you have any expectation that they were going to be absent from school for an extended period of time?
No.
Alright. When did you first learn you were not flying back to Los Angeles?
On the flight.
Where did they tell you you were going to be going?
Neverland.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I show you Exhibit 808. Do you recognize what this diagram is?
Yes.
Alright. And what do you understand it to be?
The inside of the airplane.
Excuse me. Tom, do you have a pen that will write on that? Do you have a recollection of where you were sitting at that time?
Yes. Some things are just burned in here.
Alright, so you know where you were sitting. Do you have a recollection of where Mr. Jackson was sitting?
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of where your children were sitting?
Yes.
At different times during the course of this flight, did people get up and move around?
Baby Rubba, Marie Nicole were running all over the place. His kids were running all over the place.
Anybody else?
The flight attendant was very busy.
She was very busy?
Yes, very busy.
Take a pen, if you would, please. Let's do blue.
Okay.
And if you could, put your initials in the seat where you were, please. All right. And can you tell us where Mr. Jackson was seated?
I'll put his initials or.
Put his initials. Do you remember where Gavin was seated? Put, Gavin. Do you remember where Star and Davellin were seated? Shall we go on? Do you remember where everybody else was?
Yeah.
How about Baby Rubba, where was he?
Okay, over here. That's why they were. Can I write the rest?
And Marie Nicole, yes.
And Paris and Prince. And.
Paris and Prince being Mr. Jackson's children?
Yes. And then Grace was right here.
Grace is the nanny?
Yes. Patty's right here.
Is Patty a nanny as well?
Yes. And Farsha, Dr. Farsha, right here.
Okay.
And the flight attendant all over the place.
Okay. All right. Is this an accurate depiction of the interior of that flight?
Yeah, I guess.
And are the names of the different people accurately depicted where they were sitting?
Yes.
Would you, at the bottom of this, just write your first name, right at the bottom, so we'll know whose exhibit that is? Good. Nice large letters. All right. Your Honor, I'd move to introduce this Exhibit 808 into evidence.
No objection.
It's admitted.
May I publish this?
You may.
This is the interior of this exhibit, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you the laser, if I could, please. Press that little button right there.
Okay.
Now, you've indicated by the names, Gavin, and, MJ, Star, and, Davellin.
Yes.
As your 3 children and Mr. Jackson, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you show us where MJ is? That's Mr. Jackson's seat. And does that face directly ahead towards Davellin's seat?
Yes, right there.
And Gavin was next to him?
Yes.
And that faces directly to Star's seat?
Yes.
Okay. There is a JJ as we're further to the right. Is that you?
Me.
All right. And that would stand for?
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson. Okay. Okay. Now, which direction was that seat facing?
It faces in that direction.
All right. You were not able to, from the vantage point of where you were seated, you were not able to see.
And then not only that, they're really, big in the back of me.
The seats, you mean?
Yes.
And you're not hugely tall, are you? Were you not able to see over the top of that seat, then?
Yes. They're not like these chairs. They go past.
It was up above your head?
Yes.
All right. Let's move that down. Yes, this direction.
And so do theirs, too. Not just mine.
Perfect. Right there. Tell us where Dr. Farshian was.
Yes.
And he was facing you?
Yes.
And Patty and Grace?
Right here.
And let's move in the other direction. And we have what appears to be 4 people on that.
Yes.
Would you describe that seat? What?
It's kind of like a couch.
Okay. Are there armrests at all?
I don't remember that, but I just remember that it looked like a couch.
All right. And the 4 of them were on that seat?
Yes.
Now, there's another seat that's up above that.
Right here.
What appears to be a couch. And who sat there?
I don't know.
Was the stewardess seated at any time?
No, the stewardess always sat in the back, because Grace would get mad at her and throw her in the back.
All right.
Like she had to be working, and if you were not working, you go back.
All right. Now, was there a person seated in that seat? The one that was directly above from where the couch is?
I don't remember.
Do you know if there was another person on the plane you don't recall?
I don't recall. But that's, I don't.
All right. We can take that off, and if we could turn the lights back on. Now, at some time while you were on that plane, did you see an event that caused you concern?
Yes.
What did you see?
Okay, to the jury. Please don't judge me.
If you could, just answer the question. Tell us what it was that you saw.
To the jury. Please don't judge me. At that time I hadn't slept for so long. When everybody had fallen asleep, and it was hours into the flight. I hadn't gotten up, and I figured this was my chance to look and see what was going on back there. So I got up, and that's when I saw Michael licking Gavin's head. I thought it was me. I thought I was seeing things. I thought it was me. When we got off the airplane and I asked my son, I asked him, "Are you okay?" He said, "I'm okay." And that was it.
Do you know if Gavin was awake or asleep at the time?
He was asleep at the time.
How could you tell?
Because his head was on his chest.
Okay. Where was Mr. Jackson's arms at that time?
Like this.
He had an arm around Gavin?
Yes.
Now, I want you to describe what it was you saw. You said you saw him lick him. What part of his head?
Like this, over and over.
All right. What part of his head was it? Point to your head where it was.
Right here.
Actually in his hair?
Yes.
And do you mean the side of his head?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, over and over. How many times did you see that?
It was just over and over.
All right. Are we talking about a few seconds worth or a few minutes worth? What?
I couldn't tell you.
All right. Did you say anything to anybody?
No.
At that time?
I looked around to see if anybody was awake, to see if anybody was seeing what I was seeing. And everybody was asleep, that I could see. Like I took a look at Patty and Grace, and I took a look at Farshian. They were asleep.
Did you say anything to anybody at that time?
No.
Did you ever say?
I was never going to tell nobody.
Did you say anything to anybody at any time about that event?
No.
Who was the first person you discussed that with?
I didn't discuss it with anybody until like way after Neverland.
Okay.
When Star had told me what he had seen.
All right.
And then there was everything went, backwards.
Okay. Who was the first person that you told of your observation?
Me? I think it was the police.
All right. So you had not told anybody about this?
No.
Until a conversation with the police?
No.
Do you remember where in this flight that happened, where during the flight?
After everybody had gone to sleep.
Could you tell me how many hours into the flight that was?
No. Everybody was just sleeping, that I could see.
Where did you?
Even the flight attendant, she was like this. She was way at the end, and she was like this.
Okay.
All right, counsel. We'll take our break. Is it time?
No.
It's not? Laughter. All right, go ahead.
When did you learn what airport you landed in?
To this day, I still don't know what airport I landed in. I just know it was near Neverland.
Was it a small airport?
I couldn't tell you, because the car, as soon as we got off the airplane, the car was right there.
Were you actually in a building when you got out of the plane or were you out on the tarmac?
I don't know what tarmac is.
The ground where the airplane.
Yeah, when you got off the airplane, there was that big old long car.
So you were outside when you got out of the plane?
We got out of the airplane, and the car was there.
You got into the car?
Yes.
And you went to Neverland?
Yes.
Do you know how long of a drive it was to get from the airport to Neverland?
My best estimate is less than an hour. Definitely less than an hour.
Did you know where you were going?
Yeah. On the airplane, that's when I found out we were going to Neverland.
Did you have luggage with you and?
Yes.
And clothing and things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I now know how to travel. Before I used to take just everything, you know.
All right. Now, when you got out of the plane and you went to Neverland, at some point did you go to a residence in Neverland?
Yeah, Michael's house.
Where did you stay that night?
In one of the guest houses.
Do you know approximately what time it was that you arrived at Neverland?
Very, very late. Again, like before morning time.
Do you mean late at night or into the middle of the night?
No, past the middle of the night.
So it's almost until dawn?
Yeah. And please, also the time change. There's a time change.
Alright, so did you at that point go to bed?
No, he had us. He had the car stop like way at the beginning, and then we all had to walk in the freezing night into Neverland.
So you walked some distance to get
Yes.
along the driveway?
Like the pathway.
Alright, and did you go straight to a cottage?
No, we went straight into the house. And then from the house, we got all our bags, and then that's where my garbage bag was missing. I had tied up to my red sports bag.
So you had a plastic garbage bag
Yes.
that contained items?
With my stuff. And then I had put, in the Turnberry bag, I had put my shoes inside there, my Timberland shoes, so they wouldn't dirty the rest of my stuff.
There was a Timberland bag that I assume.
No, 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 no. My Timberland shoes.
I'm sorry, the Turnberry bag.
Yes, that I put my Timberland shoes in there so it wouldn't dirty the rest of my stuff inside the garbage white bag. It was one of those big ones that I tied really tight to my red bag.
Alright, now, was that the only form of luggage that you brought with you when you went to Miami?
Me personally.
So all of your stuff was in a garbage bag?
Yes, plus the red bag.
Plus the red bag. But the red bag was a Turnberry hotel bag?
The red bag was my bag.
It was a separate bag that you had with you?
Yes. And the white garbage bag was tied to the handles of my red bag.
Okay. Alright. And that?
I mean so tight that you have to. I don't know if you know, but when you tie a plastic bag so tight you can't untie it anymore. That's how tight I had it.
It was not there when you got to Neverland?
No, it wasn't.
And you had possessions inside of that bag?
Yes, I did.
Did you report that to anybody?
Yes, immediately. I told Jesus, and then Jesus contacted Chris.
Chris was.
And then he told, Michael became aware. And Michael said, it's okay. We'll replace everything in there.
Okay. You told Chris. You told Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus is Jesus Solace?
Yes. And Jesus then contacted Chris. And then they also looked all over in the hotel. That may be some.
Where did you stay that night when you finally went to
Neverland, in the guest house.
Where was Davellin?
In one of the guest houses.
Alright. Where were the boys?
With Michael.
Do you know where with Michael?
Now I know. Okay.
At the time did you know where they were?
At the time, no.
You knew they were in the house?
Yes.
Did you ever walk into the house during the nighttime?
No.
Did you ever make an effort to contact either of the boys while they were inside the house?
No.
Did you take your meals inside the house?
Me?
Yes. During this time?
During, yeah, you need to specify. During, prior to leaving with Jesus, in the kitchen area.
Alright. Now, when you got there at this hour, you spent the night there and presumably woke up and left your room the next day.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of what time that was when you finally came out?
I think it was mid-morning. I think it was mid-morning.
Was Davellin with you?
No, Davellin was with Marie Nicole, baby Rubba.
Did Davellin stay the night in your room?
Not in my room. In a guest house.
In a different guest cottage?
Yes.
Do you know where Marie Nicole or Aldo stayed, or baby Rubba?
Oh, Marie Nicole stood in the room. They have a bed over there above the theater. There's a bed. That's where she slept. And Aldo and the boys, they slept with Michael.
Were you expecting to go back to Neverland?
No.
Did anybody?
It wasn't until in the flight did I find that out.
Did anybody ask you if you would go back to Neverland?
No, nobody asked me.
Did you want to go to Neverland?
No, I needed the kids. like I told you, they were in school. And I just to this press conference, take care of this, and that's it.
Had they talked about some press conference? And by they, I mean either Ronald or Dieter or Michael Jackson.
No.
Now, once you were back at Neverland, did you see either Ronald or Dieter?
Yeah, not immediately. The next day, Dieter came. Ronald came days after, like I think a day or two or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it was Ronald the next day, and then Dieter afterwards. I mean, I apologize. Dieter first. Then Ronald.
Was Mr. Jackson there during that few days afterwards?
Yes.
How long did you stay at Neverland before you finally left?
Well, I stood until Jesus helped me.
Alright, I'd like to show you an exhibit, if I may. Is this in evidence? Off-the-record discussion held at council table. Madam Clerk, let me just confirm that 405 is not in evidence.
It is not.
Not? Not in evidence. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you an exhibit at this time for identification not in evidence, number 405. I'd like you to take a moment and read it, if you would, please.
Okay.
It's a full page. Take your time to go ahead and read it to yourself.
Okay.
When you're done, just set it down.
Okay.
You have completed reading this, is that correct?
Yes.
Alright, do you know who Belle Yard is?
No.
Does this appear to be a press release?
I don't know.
Alright, are you quoted in this document?
Yes.
Have you ever made those quotes?
No.
Did anybody ever interview you as to the content of this document?
No.
Have you ever seen this document before?
No, right now.
This is the first time you've seen it?
Yes.
Alright, it's attributed to Janet Ventura Arvizo, is that correct?
Yes.
The date is Sunday, the 9th of February, 2003?
Yes.
Did anybody contact you on that date about releasing any kind of a press conference, a press release?
No.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce 405 into evidence.
Objection. Hearsay. No foundation.
I don't think there is a foundation. I was looking. It was identified on March 2nd, but I can't recall who identified it.
It was Anne Gabriel, I believe. Let me withdraw the introduction of this until we can do this at another time, for the convenience of the jury. We can debate the issue at that time.
That would be good.
How many days did you stay at Neverland?
I can't remember. Until Jesus helped me.
Give us a sense of it. 2 days? 5 days?
No.
Do you have a sense of it at all?
No, I don't have a sense of it.
Okay. And you say that Jesus helped you leave?
Yes, he did. And he got into it before that.
Hold on. Listen to the question that I ask and only answer that question, if you would. Okay?
Okay.
Now, did you ask anybody to take you back to Los Angeles before going to Jesus?
No.
Did you express to anybody a desire to leave Neverland?
Yes.
To whom did you?
To Ronald and Dieter.
To Ronald and Dieter?
Yes.
Was Mr. Jackson present during the entirety of that time?
Yes.
For the period of time until Jesus took you?
Yes.
Home? When you asked Ronald and Dieter to leave, what did they tell you?
That no, because I had to do the rebuttal.
Ah, all right. A rebuttal?
Yes.
Was this the first time that you had any information about a rebuttal?
Right on.
All right. And who was it who first spoke to you about a rebuttal?
It was Ronald and Dieter.
Together?
Yes. First it was Ronald. And then it was Dieter, and then it was both, and they took turns.
You had multiple conversations with them?
Yes. But Dieter, before Ronald, was preparing us for that.
Okay.
Which I didn't know.
What do you mean, preparing for you that?
They had this thing that I guess. They had extracted all the information from us. It was like a script.
They got information from you. Do you mean about your family?
Back in Miami.
All right, but...
And whatever else they did.
Did anybody ever talk to you about a rebuttal while you were in Miami?
Never.
So it wasn't until you got to Neverland?
Yes.
Who was the first one to broach that subject with you?
Dieter.
Did Michael Jackson talk to you about doing a rebuttal?
No. When I spoke to him, he said, "Do everything that Ronald and Dieter tell you, and it will fix everything."
Did you have any conversation back at Neverland with Michael Jackson at all?
The initial, when I first got there, I expressed it to him, and he said, "Do everything that Ronald and Dieter tell you to do."
What he had previously said in
Yes.
Miami.
Yes.
He said again?
Yes.
Did you express to him your concerns at that point about Ronald and Dieter?
No.
Did you have concerns about Ronald and Dieter at that point?
Yes. It escalated towards the middle end.
What did either one of them tell you about this rebuttal? What did they tell you that was going to be?
In answer to everything of the living with Michael Jackson. They were concerned about how he looked. They weren't concerned about my children, me, anything else. Only him.
Did they explain to you what the rebuttal had to do with your children's safety?
Yeah, this is another phrase, that would appease the killers. I heard that so many times here, it's just.
Alright, somebody actually used the word, killers.
Yes.
Who?
Him, Michael, Ronald, Dieter, later on, Frank, Vinny. And you know what? They ended up being the killers.
Alright, I want you to listen to the question that's being asked, and only ask that question. Answer that question.
Okay.
Answer this question only, alright? Now, who was the first person who mentioned to you, killers?
Michael.
Where was that?
That was in Miami.
Now, the rebuttal, did you know what you were doing a rebuttal to?
On all. The answer to the questions of this, living with Michael Jackson, Martin Bashir.
Now, you hadn't seen it, is that correct?
I hadn't seen it.
Did somebody explain to you the content of that?
No, it was a script, and that was it, and expressed, worked with us daily, numerous times, on what to do in between the outtakes, what to do before, and that's it.
Who was it, who talked to you about a script?
Dieter.
Did he show you one?
Yes.
Something in writing, is that correct?
Yes.
Did he present this script to you that you were actually able to read it?
Yes.
What types of things were on the script?
Just glowing things about Michael.
Did he say to you why glowing things about Michael would protect your children?
Yeah, that would appease the killers.
Alright, now, did you tell them that you would do this rebuttal?
No, prior to Jesus, it was a no.
And why did you say no?
Because I told them, what's wrong with the truth? And that's it.
Alright, now, did you?
I had no problem saying something nice, you know.
Did they tell you?
But when I had a 45-minute powwow when I got there, I believed everything he said.
Did they tell you that this rebuttal would have not just you, but your children in it?
At Neverland?
Yes.
Yes.
So who was it who told you that the rebuttal would feature all of you?
Ronald and Dieter.
Why did you go to Jesus?
Because after asking them to leave so many times and they wouldn't let me leave. And then they were all working on a positive PR for Michael. They also wanted to point out how they were doing things for the mother and the kids. They were going to use it. It went back and forth, and then they were going to use it in lieu, they don't think that they were going to put out there. They're crazy, so that was.
You don't remember the question, do you?
No.
I don't either.
I thought there was.
Why did you go to Jesus?
To help me.
Okay, and did you talk to him about helping you?
Yes.
Alright, and in what language did you speak with him?
I spoke to him both in English and Spanish.
Why is that? Why did you speak in Spanish?
Well, because I was very concerned about anybody hearing.
What did you ask Jesus to do?
To help me leave, me and the kids.
What did he tell you?
He says, because I had told him that they weren't letting me go. And he says that no one should ever be held if they don't want to stay there.
And did you leave?
Yes, I did.
Alright. Now, during that period of time that you were at Neverland before you left with Jesus, did you go any place out of Neverland?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
Ronald and Dieter said, like I told you about Michael's positive PR, and they wanted to show that he's doing things for the mother and the kids. And, so, they had me so wrapped up. I believed everything they said.
Miss Arvizo?
Yes.
Where did you go?
Okay, I went to, a beauty place. And, oh, but get this.
Miss Arvizo?
I'm paying for it.
Miss Arvizo?
That's right.
Where did you go?
Okay, I went and got my legs waxed.
Okay.
And the key thing there.
Hold on.
I'll pay for it, because it was in replacement of my things.
Alright. I want you only to answer the question that's asked of you.
Okay.
I want you to listen to the question that's asked. Would you do that?
Sure.
Okay. You went to a beauty salon of some nature, is that right?
Yes.
Did you have a body wax?
No.
Alright. You had your legs waxed?
Yes.
What else?
That's it.
Alright. Whose idea was it to do that?
Ronald and Dieter.
How did they come up with a beauty parlor?
Because they wanted to show that they were doing something for the mother. Positive PR.
Okay. Now, you said you paid for it.
Yes.
In what way did you pay for it?
Because I told them, the only way I'm going to do that is if you deduct that from the things that were lost or stolen. Who knows?
Okay.
In replacement of that.
Was that agreed to?
Yes.
Alright.
They said, okay.
Who is it who took you there, to a location?
Chris.
It was Chris Carter who took you there?
Yes. And then their little surveilling people.
There were other people that came with you?
Yes, their little surveilling filming people.
Where were your children during that time?
With Michael.
Did you?
The boys were with him,
Did you return back to Neverland?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Was that the day that you left?
I think it was, because I figured, you know what? That's it. That's enough. They got their positive PR, and now maybe I can go.
You went to Jesus?
No. After, the Germans are following me every single place.
Then you went to Jesus?
I waited till they fell asleep, and then I went to Jesus.
Did Jesus agree to take you off the property?
Yes.
Did he drive you and your children home?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To my mom's. They had me scared about going to my mom, to my own place.
What did they tell you about your place?
That the killers had been there, that it had even been broken into. I believed everything they said. Now I don't.
This is the Soto Street residence?
Yes.
Alright. Did you ask Jesus to take you to your parents' place?
Yes.
And did he, in fact, take you there?
Yes.
Did you tell either of the two Germans, Dieter or Ronald, where your residence was?
The East LA? Yeah. Oh, they took care of all of that in Miami. Found out every detail.
They knew where the Soto Street residence was?
Yeah. And plus, Michael knew before that.
Okay. He had picked up your children from that residence?
Yeah, and I had lived there for almost already 5 years.
Alright. Now, when you went to your mother's residence, you stayed there how long?
I can't remember, but I remember Frank convincing me that it's too scary to stay there. And I figured my parents are old, and so I went to Jay's house.
With your children?
With my children.
Alright. Did.
But I still didn't want to go back to Neverland.
So you went to Jay's house?
Yes.
And you stayed there for approximately how long, do you know?
I don't know.
Were you getting any telephone calls while you were at either your mother's house or at Jay's house?
Yes, a lot.
From whom?
From Frank. And then Michael had called once and spoke to the boys, and to Gavin.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah. At this point, I think he's still a...
Mr. Jackson phoned personally?
Yes.
Was this at your mother's house or was this at your...
My mom's house.
Do you know how long after you returned from Neverland it was that Mr. Jackson called your mother's house?
Almost immediately. And spoke to both boys. And then to Gavin. But Frank, all of the time.
You say, all of the time. What does that mean?
Oh, gosh, a lot.
What was he saying?
That he loves us, Michael loves us, and, loves. He wants to protect us. I'm in so much danger, me and the children. Just everything in those kind of topics.
Did he describe the danger?
Yeah, he said that, you don't know, Janet. We're receiving constant death threats here about the children. I believed him.
And he was telling you this in your conversations?
Yes.
All right.
But there was so many conversations.
When Mr. Jackson actually phoned?
Yes.
Did you talk with him at all?
No, Frank had already done the legwork for him. Let him know.
The question was only whether or not you had spoken with Mr. Jackson.
No.
When you went to J. Jackson's home, this is the one on St. Andrew's Place.
Yes.
In Mid-Wilshire in Los Angeles?
Yeah, he had a one-bedroom apartment.
Did the phone calls continue there?
Yes.
Were you calling Frank back? Was he leaving messages? Were you returning his call?
The ones I returned. Probably maybe, at that time, before returning to Neverland? I think maybe once. Once or 3 times. Definitely less than 5. The rest were all him.
Did you believe there was a danger to?
And that's maybe.
Did you believe there was a danger to your children at that time?
Yes, I believed them. To the defendant, I believed you.
Did Frank, in any of his conversations with you, tell you who it was who posed a danger to your children?
No. The killers, Now when somebody knocks, I say, okay, it's either a subpoena or a killer.
All right. Did he ever discuss any other matters with you over the telephone?
Yeah. How much that Michael loved the kids and me. And then about doing this video. And I had told them no, because Dieter and Ronald had scripted it, and so they wanted us to say exactly what they wanted us to say what they wanted us to exactly say.
During this period of time that you were back in Los Angeles, all right? After Jesus drove you away from Neverland, did the kids go back into school?
No.
Why not?
Because I really believed them. I did.
Believed that there was what?
Killers.
Danger?
And then afterwards, I came to find out from Mr. Davey that honestly no reporter ever came to my children's school.
Were you dealing with reporters at all during this period of time after you came home?
When I came home, all I saw was my mom's tables filled with different offers. Vacation, money, cars. You name it, it was there. And so before I had gone to my mom's, Ronald, Dieter, Michael had filled my head that there was reporters all over the place, and the killers were, every place I was. I really believed them. And so when I got my to mom's and saw the table filled, I thought they were telling the truth.
Hold on. Now, the table was filled with what? Documents?
Yeah.
What kind of documents?
Letters. Different letters making offers, for a story, interviews.
With you?
With the children, with me, or both.
All right. Did anybody actually call and contact, and talk to you while you were there?
The phone was ringing like crazy, so I would pick it up and pretend it wasn't me, just in case it was one of my parents' family members, because my mother's mother has Alzheimer's, so my mom and her sister, or a combination, they take care of her, so,
All right. Did you have an opportunity to look at any of those documents?
Yes, I did.
All right. And I think that you said that there were offers amongst them?
Yes, there were.
Offers for money?
Money, cars, vacations. Just you name it.
Any of them contain dollar amounts?
Yes, they did.
How much?
One was 100,000 cash.
To do what?
To give a story about Gavin.
All right. Did you assume that it was a story about Gavin with regards to Michael Jackson?
Yeah, they were very clear on what they wanted. The only people that were vague was those two reporters way in the beginning.
Okay. But these offers dealt.
They were very clear.
In other words.
And some were just, basically we want to talk, that's all. Not all of them. Some of them were just, I want to talk. That's all.
Did you call any of these reporters?
No, I didn't.
Did you have a telephone conversation with any of these reporters?
No.
Did you communicate?
Other than the one that said Gavin and all that stuff.
I understand. Did you communicate with any reporters to the extent of telling them that you were willing to do a story?
No.
And accept payment?
Ha-ah.
Did you accept payment from any reporter?
No.
Have you given a story to any reporter?
No.
And to this day have you?
Till this day.
Do you have any arrangement to do a story at some time in the future?
No.
Do you intend to give a story?
Ha.
Is it time for a break?
I believe so.
Let's take one.